That's a nice expression.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for another trip on the emotional roller coaster. Are you prepared? It's time for Chilling Wargamers, the Kings of War 2nd Edition Kickstarter Special. I am your host, Andy2D6. Joining me, my regular co-host, Mr. Spud Tate.
Yes, buddy. How are you,
How are you
Mr.
tonight?
I am absolutely delicious, as always.
Have you got over the crushing disappointment of having no internet when we were doing the Dungeon Saga specials?
I have, yeah. I'm very upset when that happened, but I've got over it now, and I'm back with delicious power.
Also with us tonight is the tiny dancing man himself, Mr. Elstonation.
Hello, people. How's it going, buddy?
Excellent. How are you?
I am absolutely delicious. Absolutely.
And just as if this couldn't get any more A-list, we prove you wrong, because, first of all, we have the legend himself, the designer of just a plethora of delicious games, Mr. Alessio Cavatore.
Hello. Delicious hello to everybody.
How are you this evening?
Delicious.
And finally, we can't see him, but we are being treated to the disembodied voice of the legendary Ronnie Renton. Hello.
Hello, I am naked.
Yes.
He is naked. Now, that actually brings up an interesting point, because you did actually pledge that on the Dungeon Saga Kickstarter, if it reached a certain amount, there would be a naked bard of you, which I believe Mr. Spud is sharing now.
Ah,
Yes.
there it
you
was.
can see.
I'm sure it was a touch more than that, wasn't it? A little higher than that, I think, was my naked bard. But there you are. You've got fairly close. So I'm better tan than that, actually. A little more hirsute as well. But other than that, a splendid naked bard.
Because it did come so close, is that something that you're not going to be doing in future? Or are you going to use that to try and drive up future Kickstarters, putting the promise of a naked Ronnie model towards the end?
Yeah, I don't know whether it would act as an incentive, or you know, if I say I won't get naked if you do 1 million, maybe something would be the.
Yeah, that'd work.
Trial and error.
I think that would probably be a better incentive than actually seeing that awful picture again. I'm not sure there's going to be a queue waiting to see that.
So, first things first. Kings of War, 2nd Edition.
Yep.
Why now? That's what people want to know.
Yeah, it was demand at gunpoint. I mean, I think there's two things. I think the first is beginning of the year we said we were going to do four Kickstarters. By October we'd finished 2, so there was no way we were going to do 4. We talked about Dead Zone and this mini Kickstarter for Kings of War. People said put Dead Zone later. They hadn't still got their 3rd wave shipment. But if we didn't go with one at this point, it was going to be another, 10 months before we'd be able to, or even 7 or 8 months before we could run another Kickstarter, 6 months after that before it gets released, which means you wouldn't have seen the new book until early 2016. And I think with the Basilean Legacy and the Heroes and Legends book being out of print, they'd have been out of print for nearly 2 years. The system, and while Alessio will tell you, is perfect in every way. It was perfect in every way, but just showing a few signs of wear and tear. There's a lot of love for it. It's a big, big gaming system. There's a lot of people playing it. There's a lot of people learning it. We wanted a Spanish, German, French editions. They were going to have to translate an old version. So we said, you know what, just get on with it. $50 is, what, 30 quid? 32 quid. You're going to get a hardback book, softback book. More apps if it funds up. Let's just get on with it. This is not. We're not trying to take $1 million here. We're trying to get a new book out. Obviously, it's done that and then some, as usual. But average pledge is $117. It's 60 quid. So I think we've done what's right by the game, and I think we've done what's right by the backers as well.
Now, before we go on, just a reminder to the audience to get those questions in now, because we will be coming to them at some point.
Great.
Get them in.
So sorry, I was going to say we wanted to see the game sometime next year. This allows us to do that. I think on a detail front, I think Alessio's got why we needed to do it. For Kings of War, what were the areas he wanted to polish up. But from a kind of logistics and planning point, it was now or a long time away.
I do remember there was talk of a 1.5 edition, possibly.
Yeah. Well, Alessio's got a great story on that actually, so I'll let Alessio tell that story.
Yes, we did talk about 1.5, and I was actually briefed and tasked to do the 1.5, and I started. I started working on it, and the plan was to bring in all the details, all the bits of rules that were not in the rulebook. So, you know, from Kings and Legends, from the Basilean Legacy. So bring it all in, so they were all in one place, and to basically add the errata and FAQ to just fix the bits that were actually literally broken and needed. Not that there were many, of course, but those bits and bobs, those commas that needed adding in the errata, we were supposed to put them in the rulebook. So I started this job, and as I was doing the errata, I remembered a lot of the feedback I got from gamers at tournaments, and there was a strong desire, and I agreed with that, to change. For example, the main thing was the line of sight. As you guys know from other games I've made, I'm a great fan of line of sight, real line of sight, because I like the leaning behind the toy soldier, looking at the gun, looking through the gun, almost like you're taking the shot yourself. So I like that. It's very cinematic. However, and that's the way I wrote Kings of War. However, of course, then playing it for a few years, what transpired was actually that the one great strength of the system is that you can actually make great dioramas with the units. You know, they don't have to be literally the number of models in the same. So you can make a little vignette, a little representation. It makes every unit different, every unit cool. However, what it does do, of course, it creates strange heights and spaces and things where actually real line of sight becomes difficult. Basically, to cut it short, it's an abstract system, and real line of sight is the opposite of abstract, so there was a little disconnect there. And so mostly because of that, I wanted, I was doing this job of 1.5, and I was like, I wish I could change this, because it would be better from this point of view and that and that. And so I fortified myself, prepared a long speech, and I was thinking, right, okay, I'll go into the office, I'll go into Ronnie's office, and I will argue for not doing 1.5, but to do a proper second edition. And by that I mean not just putting the errata in, but actually being able to evolve the rules, change them, evolve them to a higher level of knowledge of an existence. And so I went in with all my arguments ready, with all my counters to any of the objections that Ronnie would have put in when I said, oh, we could do this. And it was funny because I walk into the office and go, I thought we should, and Ronnie goes, sorry, no time for that. Urgent says to tell you first before we go into that, we're doing second edition. No matter what you say, we're doing second edition. I was like, oh, it's terrible. Oh, I need more cash on that. Oh, you have to pay me more because it's not just the 1.5, it's 2. So yes, we got to that, and yeah, second edition, it was.
And I think you did screw some more money out of me, didn't you, you bastard?
I would never do that. Would I do that now?
Yes. So, all the new armies that are coming out, like we'll mention the Abyssals and all the stretch goals, will they be added into the new rule book as well?
Yes. Yes. Sorry, did you say the...
Like the Abyssal, like the new Abyssal army and all
the plan was the same. The plan was to bring all of the other army lists, all of the other extra rules into the rule book. So the Abyssals, the Basileans, the Forces of Nature, they all go into the new rule book in the army lists. However, the rules themselves, the core rules, will be slightly evolved. And I notice that I keep saying evolve because I'm not planning on revolutionizing anything. Like Ronnie was saying, solid system, very playable, very fast. People like it because it's quick. Because you play a game in an hour and a half, and it's done. And then you put it away in 5 minutes. Your units being on big units, it's fantastic. I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever tried, but the difference between having hundreds of models loose everywhere and actually having like 6 things, 10 things in your army. Yeah. One is a big block, huge unit, a horde of 50 models, but it's one thing. I take it, lift it, put it in the box. Done. So in 2 minutes, boom, the army is away from the table into the case. So great system. Didn't want to change it. Didn't want to do anything radical to it because we're happy with the core system. We just needed to tweak a few things. As I said, line of sight. We need to address the balance a bit. So missile weapons, units with bows and crossbows were not good enough. I mean, our opinion. War machines got from being a bit too good to a bit from not good enough to too good. So we need to address some balance issues. But yeah, there wasn't a huge amount of stuff to change.
Well, while we're on the thing of like rules and stuff, if you can see on my like subtitle thing, there's actually no chicken models in Kings of War.
Need romantic chickens.
I think our Draken Riders got called chickens, I think, at some point, so perhaps they could suffice.
But if there was just an individual chicken army added, I think
right. That would be the thing, would it? That would move it on to the next level.
I think so. I think you would hit that 1 million easy.
Okay. Well, we'll look into that, and I'll phone up Chris Palmer as soon as we're off the hangout and instruct him that we need chickens.
I'll bring my concepts on Saturday.
Edible chickens? Edible miniatures?
Sorry? Ooh. Yeah, edible. That'd be awesome. Yeah, because if you think a chicken leg's about this big, it could fit on a movement tray, and every time it takes a room, you take a bite out of it.
Nice.
Instead of putting it away, you throw it in.
I don't know, Spud. You'd be sending your men on suicide missions then, wouldn't you, though?
Yeah, exactly.
Anything for another mouthful.
Well, think of that. Ronnie, that's genius. Kickstarter edible miniatures.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, your opponent takes a bite. Your opponent takes a bite of the chicken because you don't want it to die. You don't want it to take a bite out of your chicken.
I think it definitely has legs. And
boom, boom.
But I don't think it'll take off, Spud, honestly.
Hey!
He's always doubting me.
You need Matt Gilbert here now to carry this whole pun thing on.
Maybe just like one model, but just an exceptionally large chicken sort of thing. Right, you might be happy with that, Spud. You reckon? I like a gigantic.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah.
So what I just gathered really is that the better this Kickstarter does, the more it explodes at the end, the more work Alessio is going to have to do.
Yes. Yeah, get up there and pledge. Pledge, work him.
So for his sake, I hope he's being paid by the hour based on how some of the other Kickstarters have ended. A huge explosion.
Yeah, we're too wise to do that.
Yes.
So
I'm thinking
this is, after all, remember, one of our mini Kickstarters. Please, can we all bear in mind it's a mini kick. This is not the big Kickstarter you're looking for.
You did say Dungeon Saga was just going to be a little one, though, didn't you?
Did I say a little tickler?
Well, that was until you got this A-list exposure on Chilling Wargames, and then it just
exploded.
Yeah, really weird, that, wasn't
it? It did coincide quite nicely with the episodes that we did.
It'd probably done a bit more if I were there as well. Obviously, I were away at the time. So.
That was it. You were out the loop.
Yeah.
Free from the coop.
I'm actually predicting big things for Kings of War right now.
Excellent.
Where other big-name massed battle fantasy games are kind of in their transitional period, I'm sure there's going to be a kind of player trickle effect towards what visually is the most similar system. Yeah. And then when they get there, maybe they'll find it more enjoyable and stick with it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we found a bit of that with Dread Ball versus, Blood Bowl, that debate, where we say, look, it's just different, guys. We've created a new game, and it's a genre that people have a lot of affection for. I certainly do. I've always loved my fantasy soldiers. That's what I started with. But the amounts of time you have, how you want to play, how used we are to playing, there's room for choice. And I think that's the interesting thing is that. And if you look at the backer number this time is far higher than it was for the first Kickstarter on Kings of War. Although the total is lower, the actual pledge total is much higher. Well, already the number of backers. So I think I'm really hopeful that a really tight book, this one, if it's well written rather than Alessio's usual junk. Again, coming back to the concept that the whole army book, every army list is in the same book. We'd got away from that over the couple of years. We'd have to put them out as new armies were coming out. So we get a chance for the first, 6 months, and then I'll come up with some crazy idea for a new army, and Alessio will have to write a new book. But at least for a while, they'll all be in one place. The balance. So I'm really, I hope you're right, Andy, because I think it's a wonderful game. I think it's great fun. We've all got armies tucked away, Almost all of them you can use, even if they're not from us. But you can enjoy the game, you can see something different, and hopefully it allows people to have a look at Mantic.
If I may say, actually, I felt a great great difference, because I used to play Kings of War using miniatures that were loose, from my older armies from other systems, and I was playing with that, and it felt more similar to those other systems, just the way it felt, because the models were those models and were on each individual basis, and it was more lengthy and messy. Once I made the leap and actually got myself an army completely based, where the models are not loose, they're all on the base. So, every single item, 20 skeletons are all on a single movement tray. There's no individual bases. And I started to feel that, what I was saying before, I have like 5 things, 6 things, 8 things in my army. It's like playing with 8 models. It looks like a huge battle with ranks upon ranks of troops. But really, when it comes to moving, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then you take it away. And it's just... I think it's important to stress that people should try to make that, because it's a big difference. I think in the feel of it, it's a very big difference. I mean, you were saying yourself that you tried that with your Abyssal Dwarves, right?
Yeah, I was embarrassed. So I got Abyssal Dwarf painted for me because I'd failed spectacularly to paint my own dwarf army, which I am now on with. I'll have you. I've been painting this week. It'll be at the open day, my first 2 units. But I just had to get one done. It's a bit embarrassing. So I got it done and played with it in the new version for the first time a couple of weeks ago, and it was really quick. It's really fun. It is a different experience, and I think as more and more people, there's Kings of War Australia, Kings of War USA, and all these Facebook groups. As more and more people are coming to the system, we can be a little braver. We can start celebrating the differences rather than trying to hiding them and saying, no, there's. I really think a fresh, good-looking, beautiful book. Production quality. We've got more resource to be able to throw behind books now, so we can have more art, a lot more background, but just visually curious. I mean, I've just got a copy of Dreadball Extreme yesterday, the book, and the production quality is just astounding. Considering it's just Kevin Curis, they're doing a just fantastic job, and I think put that over the top of Kings of War, it'll look so much slicker as well. So I think on every level, people that are attracted to, people have heard about it. It's not gone away. It's clearly here to stay. 60 quid will get you an army that you can pick up and play with. So it's hardly a huge investment. So I hope you're right, Andy. I think the trickle effect could become a bit more than that in the next 12 months.
That low entry point for getting a rule book is good for the players out there that do already have all those armies.
Yeah, well, they're free, don't forget. You can actually get the base rules and download an army list for free. So if you want to give it a go at a club night, our rules are free. So I mean, the entry point is for someone with a war games army, either a historical human army or a fantasy army. They can play immediately. And they can see that it doesn't try to be Warhammer. It doesn't try to be any other gaming system. It tries to be a mass combat fantasy gaming system with magic, heroes, but kind of from the medieval Napoleonic era. Colours, movement, is the key. There's no one hero that can win you the battle. There's no one spell that can win you the battle. They add flavour to a war game. The war game might be orcs versus dwarfs, but it's still a war game with soldiers, units.
I think maybe we can stress one of the differences that actually from other war games that was part of my what I was trying to achieve with King's War, and according to what people say, unless they're being just nice, it kind of has achieved that. Is the idea that the amount of rules in your head while you're playing the game is close to non-existent, as in you can focus on the unit, your pieces, what they are doing on the table, what they want to achieve, your strategies, your tactics, as opposed to think rules, barrier, mountain of rules to navigate through in my head and with the other guy, and so actually make the rules, the ambition, the holy grail is to make the rules non-existent, as in, you're not thinking about the rules, you're thinking about the game. Very, very subtle.
I was going to say that was probably one of the more intriguing things I found with Kings of War, was every time I see a battle report with Warhammer Fantasy, my brain kind of gets scrambled because fantasy is not my thing. But the simplicity of Kings of War is sort of my intro point now, I think, to the fantasy genre side of things, because I think if it's a more simpler rule set, I'll have a lot more fun with it.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, we absolutely set out to do that from the beginning. You know, we had the advantage of a clean sheet of paper, and Alessio and I had 20 years of experience. You know, he had 20 years well, 10 years, obviously, he's a very young man, of 15, writing. 15. Of actually writing games. And, you know, when you first, I'm sure if you asked him 15 years ago, it must have this rule and that rule and the other rule, and actually having written a few rule sets and got that out of his system on the cheaper systems, he's now able to kind of bring all of his design zen to Kings of War. But, you know, there definitely is, having been around them and seen a few iterations, you know, a lot of experience that's gone into being able to simplify things. It's not it's simple, but not. So it's clean. It's elegant.
Not simplistic, I think. Isn't
Correct.
It?
Yeah, that's it. It's not simplistic. You won't walk away thinking, "Oh, that was a bit babyish. That didn't really get me." I don't think I've ever heard anyone do that. They walk away going, "I enjoyed that. That was fun." and I use that. Well, you know, it's not easy, but it's more relaxed. It's more chilled.
Yeah.
So.
Like the shield Wargamers.
Yeah.
You say Alessio is a young man, but taking out true line of sight does seem like kind of a rule that someone would bring in if they're getting on a bit in years, getting fed up of just crouching down to eye level.
His back can't deal with it anymore.
I can take it.
So there may have been an element of that creeping in there.
Definitely, I think Alessio's age, and I think a lot of people want to make nice dioramas. So I've just started doing my dwarfs, and actually I'm cutting bark up. And my wife's upset because I've to cut one of the trees down. But I'm cutting strips of bark and putting my dwarfs on top of them, so it looks like they're on rocky outcrops. And I've seen that taken to the kind of mild extremes. So you've got these beautiful dioramas, but because they're built up, then people are saying, "Oh, I can see that." And you're like, "Look, it's an infantry unit behind a unit of cavalry." Yes, but it's on top of that, you know, diorama you've built them on, so I can see it. So I think with Alessio's, you know, counting system, simple maths, again, it just means that there's no argument about what can and can't be seen. It's really clean, it's really elegant. You're counting to 1, 2, 3, 4, and it works. You know, cavalry are 2, infantry are 1. Or I forget exactly the numbers. That hill is a.
Well,
yeah. Will you tell him, Alessio? Because I get confused.
Well, 3 is large stuff like large infantry, etc. 4 would be something like a dragon. And then terrain is, because everybody's terrain is different, basically we leave it to the players. We suggest some heights, but then players, of course, will decide before the tournament, oops, you see how I think, tournaments. But people will decide before the game, okay, this hill is, you know, is actually as tall as my cavalry models, so let's call it a size 2. So, you know, cavalry or anything smaller will not see past it. A large monster can actually see past it and be seen, so it can be shot and stuff. But yeah, it's not nothing new, not rocket science. You know, the height system has been used in other games. You know, it's you know, we just made it nice and clean and tight and adapted to Kings of War.
You do have to be careful if you're making diorama bases for tournaments, though, because you know there'll be some people out there that'll just have a huge big tray with a big rock on it and then one zombie standing on the top and says, "Okay, here's my 50 zombies."
Nobody will do that.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we can't make our zombies any cheaper than they are. They can't be any better value. So.
Well, also,
if we can't get for 20 quid for a unit of 100 figures, I don't know what we can do.
There's also a rule that says you need at least a certain amount of models to make it count as that unit. You cannot just use 1. It would be silly.
Yeah. No.
Well, I do have a lot of zombies that are just an arm reaching out the ground,
Yeah.
a head poking out from the grass. I'm sure we've all done it.
Yeah, it's kind of good fun, and I think, you know, I'm just putting mine together. I think on my Iron Guard, I'm going to go with 9, 5 front rank, 4 behind. Because it's very obvious quite how many there is. And I'm a unit of 20. I'm definitely not going to squeeze 20 dwarfs on. You know, 16, 17, a little bit of diorama action in there. But I think as long as it quite as strongly resembles what it is supposed to be, then I think
it's fair to. This is my unit of Ogre Cavalry.
Yeah.
It's quite fearsome, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
Yes. See, the movement tray is the right size, yeah? But it's a diorama, so there's only one. He's not even an ogre or a cavalry model, but, you know?
I'm surprised you haven't negotiated to get some kind of hippo cavalry unit in the game yet.
Yeah, but
He did. He tried yesterday. He did try yesterday to put the ogres on hippopotami, I believe.
On Friday, there's the sneak peek, isn't there? Or there's like another add-on. It could be that. For Black Friday, it could be that.
Yeah, ogres on hippopotami, also known as river horses.
Yep.
I like that.
No chance. No chance.
Yeah, I like that as well.
I think there's more chance of ukulele playing miniatures coming in, isn't there? We know how that
We
works.
love the bards. We love the bards.
Giant mantis cavalry.
Ooh, there you go. Oh, too late. Someone else has just kickstarted it. Never mind. So now, I think it's about time that we actually look at the Kickstarter page and see exactly what's been going on there. So, I believe our very own Mr. Elstonation there is going to start screen sharing on that page.
Yeah, hang on.
I will focus the camera on him right now just to pile the pressure on him.
There it is.
Right, there we go. So it's currently obviously gone way past the original goal, which I'm sure you were sure it was going to do anyway.
Yeah, well, yeah, but until you press that big green button and watch it go, it's still a nervous day, I can tell you. I think
not far off 2,000 backers as well.
Yeah, which is that's the cheerful bit. 1,912 copies of the game, the book, are going out there in the world. I think, I'm trying to remember what our first print run was. Maybe it was 2,000, 2,500. So, that's 1,900. I think if you scroll down, I don't know if it's up yet. It's either going up. Oh, it's going up tomorrow, actually, so it won't be there. But we're going to have a announcement. I'm fairly sure. The Spanish edition will be going up, and the French edition will be going up. And they're going to have their own pledge in French, explaining that one of our distributors has agreed to take it on and distribute it. We're going to announce it during the Kickstarter, and that will allow people to take their pledge in French and Spanish instead of English if they want to, but also that there is going to be coming foreign translation editions, and then I'm just going to work tomorrow on getting a German one signed up.
Wow, so now it allows you to change pledges during the campaign. Wow,
you could be able to do that. You couldn't change them, you could add them. So we're going to add a one of one. Yes. Yeah, we're going to add a one of one pledge for Miniature Armour or Spanish, and for Victoria Miniatures or French distributors.
Right, so if we continue to go down there, then we'll see some of the things that have been unlocked throughout this campaign.
Yep.
I've got a question.
Beautiful imagery.
Yes, that's
Is it me? The screen is not sharing. Oh, there we go. Yeah.
If I pledged for the rulebook now, pledged for the army deal with the rulebook, do I get the army deal now, or do I have to wait till the book's shipped out at the same time?
I think we've planned that so you can have the army deal now. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean it'll be a couple of months. When we say now, the pledge manager will come out in a couple of months, but we would ship it. We'll bring everything in, get all the stock ready, make sure the armies are all in, because it'll be a fairly big logistical exercise. Yeah. And then we'll ship them, but we'll ship them before the book, so you can get your army painted up and start prepping it so that you can have a read. And there'll be a digital copy of the rules knocking around as well a little bit before the actual printed version as well. So I think everyone gets one of those.
See, I think this pledge here is absolutely amazing, just for the simple fact, if you want to, you can have a huge army, or you can just get two, and then intro starter for everyone.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those, if you want to pick a couple of small armies, get going, you and your mate, you've got the, I think it's $150, so 80 quid, two nice, good-sized armies. You get a softback rule book. So you get a hardback rule book that's going to have all of the history in it, all of the background, all the races, all the army lists, all the rules, some hobby sections. You'll also get what we're calling the battle book, which will just be the rules and the army lists. So that one can go on your bookcase, and then the softback book you can take with you to tournaments, you can take with you to games club nights, and so on and so forth. Same book, but just half the content. So you get a book each, 2 armies, you can get started. Or, no, I'm Abyssals, fine. I'm having this army, I'm up and running, and I've got the full rules, I've got my enemy army lists in there. Let's have at it.
It's a lot more versatile than in a lot of other game systems where you just have a starter box, which is generally the best deal that you can get on the miniatures, but you don't have a choice of which armies are going in it.
Yeah. One of the things I always wanted to do, I mean, we do it a bit, we're going to be able to do it better in second edition, was I always wanted the 2-player army set to be like a box with all the rules and the dice in the middle, and then you took whichever 2 army set, small army sets you liked and slipped them into a slipcase. I've just logistically never been able to get it, but I started talking about it. Everyone thinks I'm mad. But what we will be able to do in the second edition is, if you buy a 50 quid army deal, which is a retail line, that will have the battle book rulebook in it. The current iteration has a short form rulebook with just 4 army lists and a small set of the rules. The army book will have the full, all the rules and all the army lists. So for 50 quid, which is kind of the running price of some rule books by themselves, you're going to get every army list you need, the full rule set you need, and whichever army you want.
That's really good.
I've got a little question from the audience while we're on the looking through the armies from Brian Schmidt. What point value are the starting armies, approximately?
They are slightly different. Because one of the things, there's not, I'd like to, in an ideal world, you'd say all of them are 750 points type thing.
Yeah.
But it's just not quite possible to do for 2 reasons. A, we're still tweaking points values. So when Alessio talks about balance, and he might talk about this in a second, you can either make artillery less tough or put the points up.
Yeah.
And in some cases, he's probably going to do a mix of both. Purposefully, certain armies might keep one of their artillery weapons really quite tough, and when it goes off, boy, does it make a mess. But it's might be pointed wrong at the moment. So they're tough and cheap. That's not great because then you take 6 of them and blow the crap out of someone. So we couldn't actually do it. A, we haven't got the completed army list. That's the balance. That's the play testing. We're putting new units in as well, so we want those in so people can play them with those in. And also sometimes the cost price, if there's a little bit of metal in it, or something high points value but is a relatively easy model to make. Let's say the abyssal golems. The abyssal golems are quite high points value. 3 of them are in a set. They're in Restic, and great models. So you get quite a lot of points for those for a cost price that's not usually high. But all of them give you a good starter army.
Yeah, that's really good. Mr. Hefister55566, we've already answered your question, so you'll have to watch it afterwards. So I'll ask you the next one. Any chance we will see stuff from the Forces of Nature? I know we've already seen 1 unit so far.
Well,
is that coming out with the hippopotamus and the chickens on Friday?
One of those 3 things may well come out on Friday.
Yes! So I've at least got a 75% chance of it coming out.
So, sorry, nature fans, it's going to be the chickens, I'm afraid.
Yeah, chickens all the way. We always have a bit of fun. It is Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Thanksgiving, so I'm sure Chris Palmer and Stuart will have hatched up some evil, crazy plans for last weekend. And I'm sure we can have some fun with that. So, there's a lot of love for the nature army, isn't there?
Yeah, I saw them and I thought they were awesome. Like just the one concept sketch.
Yeah, it's also interesting because I think when Alessio and I came up with the 3 angles of the triangle, how they all interplayed, but it's now starting to create more and more armies thoughts in our heads. We're thinking about a kind of Norse-themed human Kingdoms of Men army that draws down, ice giants and everything else. But that's the forces of good. It's kind of taken nature, it wants that, but it also wants to drive out the abyss and fight against it. And so we're thinking of a Kingdoms of Men army that's kind of drawing from Middle Eastern ethos and myth and fantasy, but where the spirits and genies and things like that, where they see the dead as perfectly normal. You know, so it's drawing again from the forces of the land, from the kind of.
Ronnie,
Yep.
the dead are perfectly normal. It's when they walk around that is not so.
Well, yeah, exactly. They trap them in bottles and things like that, and they worship them. So yeah, I think other people might see them as bad, but they don't see what they're doing as terribly bad.
Well, actually, nature is, like you were saying, Spud, it's a fascinating army, and in the background, like Ronnie was mentioning, we got it that effectively, often you think of nature as the good guys, always together with the elves and stuff,
Yeah.
but actually we went, no, nature is neither good nor bad. Basically, it's a force of balance, literally a force of balance, where in the world of Kings of War, or world of Mantica, when evil is winning, when the abyss is dominating, then nature will fight alongside the forces of good, as it is pretty much at the moment. That's why it's closer to the elves, and it will fight to try to, push back the abyss, push back evil. But if the Basileans, the super goody two shoes, will start to conquer the universe and make everything boring and and flat, etc., then nature will suddenly start to fight them.
So what you're saying is the forces of nature kind of have OCD, and they need both sides to be even.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think the force of nature see that the world is more important than any given faction within it, and so their raison d'etre is to allow life to continue. But that means, so I think the summer campaign that's going to launch next year, which is where we're going to set a piece of the map and say, right, the abyss is going to break out here. And we're going to play all the games over the year. Everyone's going to log their results. There's going to actually certain armies in this as good. So the Basileans, the Elves, the Dwarves will be fighting against this outbreak of the Abyss. The Abyss, because they're creating some kind of maelstrom, will attract the Abyssal Dwarves who'll see slave and gold and so on and so forth. They'll be the armies of evil. The Orcs go and have a good bit of fun. But in this case, because the Abyss is breaking out into a new area, it's disturbing the balance, the forces of nature will probably be on the good side. Because it's upsetting the balance, it's destroying rather. Whereas if the Basileans are getting all up to themselves and deciding to flood lakes and flatten mountains, similarly the forces of nature will come out and say, no, you're not. You're not putting a road through there. So I think it fights in what's in its interest. They
are on nobody's side, because
correct,
nobody's
they are
on their side. Yeah,
and that's where there's other armies around that. As I've always said, it's like 3 points for triangle, and each army draws from somewhere on that in that spectrum. So there's the forces of evil that just want to dominate and have ambition and drive things forward. So I see the undead armies as driven by that, but of course drawing from they're using the spirit world, and they're kind of drawing from nature to raise it. So it's slightly towards the nature, it's using the power of the earth and the power of magic, but for evil ends. So it's in that space.
Now, we just saw the Abyssal army. Are those models going to be designed alongside the Abyssal Dungeon Saga models as well? So they're all along the same lines.
Correct, absolutely. And in fact, they'd been designed for quite some time, and therefore when we came to do Dungeon Saga, we thought it was a great way to introduce them to the world. So they're absolutely all on the same size and the same scale, so you could mix your troops across, you can have some fun. Basing them up, I think the armoured zombie would make a great hero figure in the middle of your regiment, or you could knock a few of them into your zombie regiments. They're on the same size, same scale. So there's loads. The Molochs in the Abyssal army will be able to maybe be a hero figure, so it gives you more choice. So the great thing is you've got loads of 28mm figures coming. Dungeon Saga can drop into Kings of War or vice versa.
With in the new Dead Zone, the Vermin have been brought into it more.
Yeah.
Would there be any chance of any kind of features in Kings of War? Sorry.
Yeah, I think we're having some fun with the Vermin in Dead Zone because they've never been done. You know,
Yeah.
They've got the whole, and they've got a big backstory in the Dead Zone. I think they were going to put a little short story out on Christmas Day. I think it's our Christmas present. So sorry, I've ruined everyone's Christmas
Secrets.
surprise. Yeah, there they go. But there's a good story there. I've written a really good story about what was happening with this Dead Zone. And so, yeah, for sure, if they prove popular and they do well, there's a lot of love for Ratmen. So we could almost certainly look at dropping them in either as a unit or an army within Kings of War.
Who doesn't love rats, really?
Who doesn't love rats? Yeah.
Oh, you can see some of these heroes here. Some of them look quite big and juicy, don't they?
This guy, Tyrant Kingblade. He looks cool.
Yeah.
We
Kingblade tips a lot of people over, I think.
We did recently see the large plastic Mars Attacks models come out.
Yes.
So is that something that's more possible now?
Yes, it is. I think with this, we're getting some good heroes. We're doing some units. I think it also reinforces that we can probably do mini kicks. You know, we can just do 50, 80,000 Kickstarters for specific armies. And I'd love to move the scale. I mean, I think with this one we're going to use the dragon, and so those things are coming across. But I'd love to see the dwarf steam train. I think that would be great. I don't think we're going to do it in this Kickstarter. I think timing-wise and expectation-wise, it would be too much. But there's certainly no reason that we couldn't come back in the future. And now we've got the skills. I think that will be firstly used probably for the Warpath Kickstarter. But once we've mastered it, then I think we can move into the organic stuff. You need that little bit more organic for Kings of War. I think when it's Warpath, it's going to be a lot of straight line, which we know that hard plastic can do very well.
What we see there, we see the Abyssal Dwarf on some kind of creature similar to a dragon. Is that going to be the dragon body, but with just a different head on it then?
Correct. Yeah, we're not going to, because we've got this body, we're trying to get something for every army, a nice big centre point. So we can use a few pieces of metal in there and just make it look quite different. In actual fact, it's going to be the head and the neck piece as well. The neck piece will be different, so that they can sit on a different throne, or they can be standing on the neck and they can be, riding it and everything else. So to a greater or lesser extent, depending how different it is from a dragon, in that case, the winged abyssal will look quite different. Might even look at wings and things, or tail.
You can see the various heroes in different stages of concept there.
Yeah,
so
and a couple of different
not
concepts.
Just something that's been knocked up together. It's all an ongoing process to get all these things done. Obviously, things are in different stages.
Yeah, and we just keep rolling them out, and it's kind of good fun to show all the different stages. There's a couple of different artists there as well. So you've got some Heath stuff, and you've got a new chap that Stuart's used as well for the dwarf Warsmith.
So I think we've seen pretty much everything. Oh, that's
Ogre Warlock there.
looking quite done, isn't it?
Yeah, he's sculpted, I think. So I think Chris had no choice but to just put him up. And they said, you can't stretch goal him. Or maybe they did, but I think he just put him up.
So I think that takes us to pretty much everything.
Yeah, there's the Abyssals. There's Arbalaster. Yeah, I'm very excited about the app as well. I think that could be good fun. We're trying to start bringing in some of the army building sides. That's the Secret Weapon Rolling Fields. That's the 6x4 gaming table from Secret Weapon. Looks really nice.
That's very interesting.
Some scenery go here as well.
There we go. Look at that. Foreground have managed to do some special deals for us. They've cut their prices slightly, and they've put together. What's lovely about this stuff is painted. So you can literally pop it out, glue it together, and it looks like that. We've done nothing with that. That is not doctored in any way. The foreground stuff comes out and straight onto your gaming table. So if you don't fancy painting and gluing lots and lots of buildings together, you can glue those and you've got a gaming table.
It's more than anything in wargaming, I find that it's terrain that people tend to not get around to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you still see a battlefield with just an upturned ice cream tub for a hill or something.
Yeah. And that's one of the great shames. And I think with our Dead Zone scenery, we've gone a long way to sorting that out. And the two things I'm utterly hooked on at the moment is I'm doing my dwarf army. I'm really, really enjoying that, I have to say, for the first time, just diving back in and building a big army. And the Dead Zone terrain, I'm just building tons of it. I'll have it at the show on Saturday, I think.
You can see the dice add-on set there, but I don't see any orange ones.
Oh, shucks.
Oh dear.
Get a request in.
Gonna say that could make it into the Friday thing as well.
Yeah. Okay, we'll go for orange. Which army would be orange, Andy?
I don't know actually.
Chickens.
Actually, yeah, that's possible. When they're cooked with a nice coating on them, full of secret ingredients, they do look a kind of orange, don't they?
11 herbs and spices.
Yep.
It's the dwarves, really, isn't it, Ronnie?
Yeah. Kickstarter fried chicken, as it's known.
Kickstarter fried chicken.
So, war drum there.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
That's going to be drums them up into a frenzy so they don't run away or something, Alessio. More chance of being inspired.
I cannot work in these conditions.
Come on. Get some rules written. Stop messing about. It's dead easy. Knock them out. Bish, bash, bosh.
Oh, as usual, basically.
Yeah, actually, just because I'm sure Alessio's feeling a bit left out at the moment. Are there any?
I'll shut up for a bit. You talk to him.
Are there the basic rules for some of these things that are just currently in concept form?
Well, the Abyss is the one that is being expanded the most, and we have, of course, the core army list, which was like a beginning, and now it's growing into something bigger, and certainly will have to be developed. I'm sure that Ronnie will throw more and more wacky stuff in there, which will break my precious, perfectly balanced system, and so I'll have to do some firefighting, I think, after the Kickstarter. Hey, but used to that.
Stop sharing now. I think everyone's seen enough of the Kickstarter page. Until they head over there in a minute and pledge if they haven't already.
Yeah, pledge.
You will see an spike after this.
See, if it sells through the million, you can have your naked Ronnie bard.
Don't pledge.
He said it now.
Live on camera. It can never be deleted or taken back.
There it is.
They say that if they don't pledge, they get the bard.
What?
If they don't pledge,
I think people want it. There was high demand for it during the Dungeon Saga Kickstarter. People really wanted it.
Okay.
So I think people want their forces of man armies to be led by a naked Ronnie.
But of course.
The ukulele.
Yeah, it's actually 1,050,000. So.
There it is. It's back again.
Just one more time, just for the people.
Well, there you go. It's promised now. So now, this obviously is slightly to an existing game rather than a whole new system.
Yeah.
Something we're seeing more of now that Mantic already has quite a range of games now. We're going to be seeing more updates and less new games. Yes.
I think you've got, if you look back over the last year, we had, Dungeon Quest, Dungeon Saga was the offspring of Dwarf King's Hold. There's some mechanics in there, so that's been kind of knocking around for a while, which is our first ever board game. Dreadball Extreme was Kickstarter because we've got seasons 4, 5, and 6, and the team's out for that. We've just done Kings of War in the new year, so we're just going back to existing universes and in some ways they're not quite as exciting as something entirely new, but actually we all know that we need a little encouragement every now and then, and just like this Kings of War campaign has got me get my dwarfs out, and I'm going to make progress towards having an army. I'll play a load of games and I'll get excited about it, and then the campaign might get me again. You need constant drip feed, particularly on the bigger gaming system. If you're painting a skirmish side up, you can get that knocked out, you get playing with it. But if you are building an army, you kind of need to drip feed the inspiration. So we're doing that. We've got some wacky ideas, some plans for some big stuff. We're obviously working still towards Warpath. We've got a lot of hard plastic now starting to come, and it's looking excellent. The Enforcers, Peacekeepers will be going out in a couple of weeks to the Dead Zone backers, and they look excellent. They really do look fantastic. So there'll be some Warpath beta. So there's still a couple of good, really interesting things, but all of them being set really in Manticore in the Warpath universe. So while we may do a skirmish version of Kings of War, perhaps, or we'd love to do those, but mostly they'll be feeding back in. And even if it is a new game, Dungeon Saga, the miniatures crossover. So all of them go into your Toy Soldier collection.
Right. So, Spud, have we had any more audience questions?
I'm just checking that right now.
We have had one question from Facebook while you're looking at that. There's somebody who wants to know whether you're going to be redoing the Men-at-Arms brew.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they turned out quite as well as we wanted. It was when we were trying to discover this, trying to unlock a new tooling method. We will at some point. It's not going to come in as Kickstarter because there's a lot of other things that we can do. And when you clip them together and paint them up, they don't look. They look pretty solid. There's other things I'd do before I go back. There's other Kingdoms of Men armies that I want to tackle. But I'm sure they're certainly on our radar of something that we know wasn't quite up to the standard that we want our stuff to be. And when you compare it against other things, they're not quite there. So, not right now, but we are aware that they're not quite up to snuff.
Fair enough.
So have we got more questions, Mr. Spud?
Yes, we have from Mr. Graham Collins, the legend himself. He's never missed a Chilling Wargamers episode since 2006. How likely are we to see a Kings of War or Warpath pen and paper role-playing game at any time in the foreseeable future?
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, we've got someone chatting to us about doing a Dead Zone role-play game. So it'd be a subset of the Warpath one set within kind of more specifically tied to a kind of a Dead Zone genre, because then there'd be a limited number of planets. Love to do it. Just want to work with. While I've played a few role-playing games, I certainly don't know enough about them to write them or to produce them or whatever. Would love to hear from a publisher who wants to work with us. We've got a great big art asset. We've got a really interesting couple of universes developing. So that would be. I'd love to see that. Love to see it.
I actually have a question for Alessio, because this is kind of tied in with the Kickstarter, but is it trickier going back to an existing system to redo it, or is it easier creating a new one?
They have different pros and cons, like most things. I mean, I suppose it depends how much the existing system needs done, so needs doing. Because starting from blank slate, it's great because obviously you have all the potential for going places and the freedom, and then you don't have the bulk of an existing thing way on your shoulders. So there's a lot of freedom. However, of course, there's also a horror vacuum. There's this complete, the horror of the white page staring at you and going, where do I start from? And to be honest, I've done enough new systems now that actually has become a matter of I know where to start, I know where to go next, I know what to put on. So that process is now, well tested. To do a second edition or a further edition of something that exists, it's challenging. In a way, it's easier because you know where you are, you have experience of the thing, you know the bits that you want to address. So in a way, the road is already been paved for you. You know where you're going. But the one thing that is very tricky is that is the chaos theory. The fact that you tweak this bit over here on page 6, real line of sight works like this now, and suddenly there's imagine like when a neuron fires in the brain, all these connections to all the other neurons, etc., and it goes everywhere, and it goes and it's everywhere, and you go right. So by changing this bit here, I have changed that rule over there, this rule here, that rule there, and if I change that rule there, then that means that actually I have to change this other rule here, and the special rule here doesn't mean anything anymore, because it works on line of sight, so I have to adapt that. So you have to catch all of these things, and of course, once you've done all of this huge exercise of changing a few rules here and there and seeing the repercussions of it, then, like Ronnie was saying at the beginning, you have to rebalance the point values. If you make rules that means the war machines are less powerful, like we are doing, like giving them an arc of sight, like every other unit, as opposed to having them free to pivot in any direction, in a way making them more similar to normal units, which in playtesting we're finding it's interesting because we realize how lazy we got with war machines, because the idea is, yeah, well, it doesn't matter, I always fire there, there, and there. I don't have to worry about how I position them, the field to fire them. While now, with the abstract line of sight and the arc of sight, you have actually to think. So this war machine is covering this bit of the field, this one is doing that, first in the middle is actually interlocking field of fire with that one and that one, so that area and that area is like a killing ground. So you start to think where to put them, where to angle them. Occasionally you would go, yeah, if I stay facing this way, I may fire one more shot at that unit, but I don't really care, because they're kind of dead anyway. So I may waste a turn changing the field of fire to face my left flank, where actually I'm in trouble. So next turn I will have some support fire there. So that change means that, of course, the point values change, the rules change, big mess, then the point values have to be reassessed. And indeed, I mean, that's the plan for the Kings of War. That's something that people that are involved and interested will certainly want to know. But the plan is really, we are getting all the feedback through the community, through playtesting, through the feedback directly from the Kickstarter, and then basically also with our rules committee, which is the kind of the super power gamers, the most keen players of Kings of War, which we are working with, and basically all of this will be distilled into a big file where I have basically a PDF of the current version with all the notes covered in hundreds of notes. I would have to go through a jungle with a machete and go, right, yeah, this one we really need to address. You know what, this one, yeah, we can live with it. No, actually, I disagree with this one. And cut vines and basically prune it, make it, small, and then go and have a sit down with Ronnie, which will clearly ruin everything by basically saying, no, I want regeneration. I really, really, really want this rule. but no. So obviously, we'll have a conversation about what stays in, what goes out, and obviously I'll review this with Ronnie and with the guys, and we'll produce the final manuscript. So it's and again, this process will start after the Kickstarter. We'll filter it all down and start doing that, and then of course, after we have a thing we're happy with, there will be a phase of playtesting. So try to to catch anything that's left in there. So yeah, complex process, but an interesting process. So I don't think I've answered your question, but I suppose your question is they both have good and bad and advantages and disadvantages. So
it sounds like it, because I mean, if you're creating something new, you can just create it and then you playtest it. Whereas if you're going back to something, you've got to sort of adjust it, playtest it, and then possibly readjust it again. And good and bad. Good and bad.
Good and bad.
What you're talking about with the war machines and the arc of sight for them, is that the kind of change that being made? It doesn't increase complexity at all, but it does change the level of strategic depth that you can apply.
Well, in fact, it reduces complexity, because basically what I've done is I went to the war machines section, which was war machine work like every other unit, single model. There was a single model, a single block, but they have, and it used to be, they have this exception. The movement works differently, and the line of sight works differently. And so actually now that the war machine section has gone from being, I don't know, an entire page to half a page, because it's like the other units except for this, and this. So the complexity is actually being reduced. However, the tactical choices with your war machines, now that they have a field of fire, like everybody else, so they don't have a special, I'll turn around and fire anything.
Yeah, do whatever you want with them, and they can blow anyone apart. So whatever your threat is, they can react to it.
Now, I have spotted on the YouTube comments, somebody has laid down the gauntlet for Ronnie. Named Luke Watson.
Okay, he works for me, so he may be getting fired tomorrow morning.
He wants your dwarves to be prepared for some kind of thrashing, it sounds like, at the hands of his orcs at the open day.
Yes, well, yeah, I suspect my dwarves might not be ready, but I have an abyssal army ready, whereas his orcs have got no chance of being ready. So bring it on, Luke.
Yeah, and Luke's P45 is in the post. So
yeah, correct. If he wins, he's in trouble. If he loses, he's in trouble. So whichever way it goes, he's either going to get mercilessly teased or fired. So
On the subject of the open day, of course, the Chilling Wargamers are the A-list media representatives there.
Splendid. Looking forward to seeing you boys.
Naturally.
Yes.
So, what exciting things will people expect to see?
Actually, it's going to be it's probably going to be, I think, our best open day ever. We were supposed to say that, but we've had time with, we've got a new input of young, fresh blood, like Luke. There's 2 Lukes, and there's supposed to be Kieran. He's been very poorly. So they've actually just got, they're great hobbyists. So they've not only, we've got Alessio with Locker and Taro of Locker, but we've got, these guys have made a trailer park. They've gone out and bought a load of American trailers, and they've built a huge trailer park, which is going to be attacked by the big stompy robots. So I think a scene straight out of the movie. Looks absolutely fantastic. That's for Mars Attacks. So they're going to have that. They've also done a Survivor, where they're going to take loads of terrain, and you're going to get a couple of like civilian figures or whatever, and they're going to try and run away from the zombies as the zombies are coming at them. So they've got to get to the landing pad and get off world before the zombies kill them in a sci-fi setting. So we've kind of taken the rules of the game and having a bit of fun doing things that you just can't do at home, and I think it's the first time we've been able to do that. There'll be demo games for everything. There's going to be some seminars. 4 lucky people every couple of hours are going to get a tap on the shoulder, and they're going to get to go in a room with Jake and play Dwarf King's Quest. So there's going to be golden tickets there. They'll be able to play the first couple of scenarios of Dwarf King's Quest with Jake in the very, very early alpha stages, so they can see that and go and brag about it. So yeah, there should be really lots of great, exciting things. The studio will all be there. We've got the terrain tutor, Mel, who has built all the terrain this year. So I think 2/3 of Adepticon's gaming tables are going to be using the battle zone terrain, the dead zone terrain. We sent them literally 2 pallets of plastics for them, and they looked at that and they thought, we don't even know where to start. So the terrain tutor had done a Help for Heroes, where we sent him a £100 box and he built it, done videos of building it, and then auctioned it off. So it's wonderful. Help for Heroes, splendid. The Adepticon guys had seen this, asked him to build them some terrain as a template. So we sent him the same ratios of what we'd sent them, and he built them some terrain. And he's done a load of videos, they're absolutely fantastic, showing this, and 2/3 of the tables. And Adepticon will be there, so he's at the show telling people how to build the terrain and what they can do with it.
Right, sounds delicious.
Yeah, so there should be lots of cool and funky stuff going on.
Now, speaking of delicious, I think it's time for the poem of the week.
Yay!
Yes.
Okay, here we go.
Yay, we love it.
2nd edition Kings of War. Improving a game we already adore. If you were undecided about it before, now is the time to jump through the door. The lovely new rulebook won't leave you poor, with delicious background brought to the fore. A new range of models that are hard to ignore. Just don't give them to Ronnie, or they'll end up on the floor.
Fantastic. Great.
Very good, very good. We'll have a rendition on Saturday as you can be the closing announcement at the end of the show.
I'll have to do a special Mantic Open Day poem.
Yes, that's what we want. That's what we need.
I think that's what every Open Day needs, really.
Yeah.
As if our presence there won't be enough.
No, we need a poem too.
Well, the pressure's on now. So I think that pretty much wraps up everything, unless we've had any last-minute comments. I'm just going to refresh the page now. Anyone written out last minute? Well, Graham Collins said thanks, Ronnie. I don't know what that was for. Maybe for not showing himself naked.
Yeah.
Question.
Let's assume it was for the question then.
No.
Yeah.
So, thank you for joining us, everybody.
Thank you for having us.
We've had quite a lot of live viewers, as we tend to on these types of episodes. So,
Yeah, oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Spud.
No, I just want to say thank you for everyone, everybody on the show for tonight. The legend, Mr. Alessio, the Mr. Ronnie and his wonderful phone, Mr. Elson for popping along, and Mr. Andy for sorting everything out. And yeah, thank you for myself for just being here.
Spud, I hate to tell you this, but your Tarot of Locker poster in the background is crooked. It started falling down during the show.
And it's a Norman! It's a Norman!
No, this is how all the kids do it. They like keep posting these days. God, I'm doing nothing.
He's a boss and he's doing it fly.
Yeah, look, in it.
So, on that note,
on that bombshell,
we can't possibly get any cooler than that. So we should probably just stop there. So, thanks for watching, everybody.
Love you all, guys.
We'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you.
For another emotional experience.
Bye.
Bye.